On the 23rd of December 1983, Horwich Loco Works closed after 97 years of locomotive design and production. In its time, Horwich Works had a worldwide reputation for the excellence of its locomotives and workforce. It built 1,830 steam locomotives and repaired 50,000 others. It also produced 169 diesel locos. At its peak, the works employed over 5,000 people. Every other family had someone who worked there. It transformed this once sleepy Lancashire village into one of the 6 leading railway towns of Great Britain, making a major contribution to our industrial development and having an impact across the world. It changed forever the lives of the original villagers and the thousands of newcomers who came from all over the country to work here. The Loco Works provided not only their employment, but their social, recreational and educational needs through the Railway Mechanics Institute, the famous RMI. The famous RMI, whose legacy still lives on in the town today. The Horwich we know today is still based on the new town created by the arrival of the Lancashire and Yorkshire Railway Company some 139 years ago. And fortunately, there are still many landmarks standing to remind us of that time. We have previously documented the remarkable twist of fate that saw the purchase of the site and much of the surrounding area by the Lancashire and Yorkshire Railway Company in 1884, and how a new town was created in a little over 10 years, increasing the population from 3,000 to 13,000 between 1880 and 1891. We have also written at length about the wonderful legacy of Sir John Aspinall, the first Chief Mechanical Engineer and the father of Horwich Loco Works, who both masterminded its construction and designed its first locomotives. He also commissioned the building of the Mechanics Institute, which became known as the University of Railway Engineering, and produced some of this country's finest railway engineers like Sir Nigel Gresley and Sir Henry Fowler. Horwich Loco Works played an important role in the production of armaments in both World Wars, producing tanks and shells, and it was during these times that women became an integral part of the workforce. In the post-World War II years, the works became part of British Railways, and diesel and electric trains gradually replaced steam. The last steam locomotive was built at Horwich in 1957, and the last one repaired in 1964. But the works went on for another 20 years, producing diesel and electric units, carriages and wagons, until its closure at the end of 1983. Although the writing was probably on the wall for Horwich Loco Works after the glory days of steam had ended, there was a real hope that diversification into rail and non-rail related engineering activities might keep the works going, especially when British Rail Engineering announced a £4 million investment in new facilities in 1979. However, under the new Conservative government, privatisation of loss-making public sector industries was the order of the day, and job losses were soon being announced. There then followed a spirited campaign to save the works, led by the local management, workforce, unions, Bolton Council, GMC and the local MP Roger Stott. This included a relay run to the Houses of Parliament by Horwich Harriers. The campaign is well documented in the Horwich Heritage DVD Countdown to Closure, which contains extensive TV coverage from the time.
Come inside a works like this that's just about to be closed, especially one that's been going nearly 100 years. You expect it to look old, to look ready to be closed. But when you come here, what you see is a lot of big money that's been spent very recently. Behind me there in that car shop, there they spent with those new cranes and all the other new gear, they spent £1,750,000 and they finished the work last Christmas. And there, the next door along, that's the car testing shop where they repair and test new trains before we go travelling on them all over again. And there they spent £750,000 and they finished the work 2 years ago. There, over there, that traverser that moves whole coaches backwards and forwards along to these sheds. That's so new, it's still under guarantee. And the battery shop over there, why, that hasn't even been commissioned yet. It doesn't seem to add up. British Rail's case is that the combination of the recession and their own improved efficiency means that there's simply not enough work to go round. Over a period of 6 years, they say they'll be cutting the annual number of passenger coaches needing overhauls by a third. Ironically, the works is proud of its record for completing these overhauls in less than the time allowed. It's a contribution to British Rail's efficiency, which they now think is being poorly rewarded. But for years, Horwich has been taking in the extra jobs that other British Rail engineering works couldn't manage. At the end of this year, British Rail say there won't be any extra work to be shared out. And that'll mean there'll be nothing left for Horwich to do.
But it was all to no avail, and 1,500 workers left the works for the last time 40 years ago this year. The impact on the town was quite devastating. It had lost its main employer, the railway company that had built the town and the place where 3 generations of so many families had worked. With few alternatives available, the loss of employment was keenly felt in both families and local businesses who had relied for so long on the works for their trade. Horwich took a long time to recover, and it was thanks to the building of the Middlebrook Retail and Office Park in the 1990s that things eventually started to improve. So what was it like to work at the Loco Works in its later years, in the run-up to closure? Such is the passage of time that those who were 20-somethings at the time are now in their 60s, and it is important to add their memories to those of earlier generations who we've interviewed before. Derek Cartwright served his apprenticeship at the works and was one of the last millwrights to be employed there.
So this is Derek Cartwright. Derek, when did you start as an apprentice and what was it like at the works as an apprentice?
So I started in the training school in August 1978. Once I'd left school, it was almost like starting in the sixth form. We did a whole year in the training school. A group of people, many of which had never met before. And there were also private company apprentices with us who came from other parts of the northwest and joined us for the first year. They called it the off-the-job training, the engineering training, and it was an intense 12 months. When I look back at it, I'm been surprised how much we fit into that 12 months training programme. We did a section on the fitters, with the fitters doing fitting equipment. We did a section with the joiners, making toolboxes like the one you can see over to my right. In pattern making, moulding. We did sheet metal work where we made our own toolboxes and the like. And we did welding amongst the sheet metal working section. We did machining, that was milling machine, lathes, shaping machines, slotting machines. And things that we started to make on the machining section, we finished off on the fitting section. We did blacksmith work, we did electrical work where we were wearing motors, made induction coils, wired up lighting systems, and interspaced amongst all that we spent time in the classroom. So 1 week in 3 was in the classroom, and in the classroom we did mainly engineering sciences, we did technical drawing, we did all types of things about heat and expansion and friction, all the things you'd expect with engineering sciences. Things like safe work, lifting beams, pivoting or moments around a point, so we were able to understand how to lift things. I'm talking 40, 50, 60 ton of a lift, and safe working through all that. While we were in the classroom on Friday afternoons, every apprentice, probably for 25 years, was taught first aid, which I still think today is a very progressive thing to do, and is something that isn't done today routinely in industry anywhere. But we were all taught first aid, which is an excellent thing to do. Working on the railway, certainly working on a big engineering plant like Horwich Works, you needed to be aware of safety, and you needed to help people who were injured. And that's what that first aid was partly about, of course. Once we'd finished in the training school, we moved on back into the works, and by which time we'd all selected which trade we were in. So I was a fitter, there was electricians, sheet metal workers, turners on the machining sections, a joiner, pattern maker, there were all sorts of people, a painter. We all went into the works, and then for a year I rotated around different sections of the works. We had 10 placements. So I worked in the smithy, I worked in the tool room, I worked on the lathes again, in the turning section. I worked in the what people generally call the erecting shop, which what we called was the wagon shop or the car shop, and it had different sections. It had 5 different sections. We worked in worked on the fitting benches, worked in the millwright shop. So we did a circuit round. At the end of that year, they wanted a small number of millwrights. So a millwright is a fitter, a mechanical fitter, who focuses their attention and their work and are trained in a different way to maintain machinery, to install machinery, whatever that machinery is. It could be cranes, lathes, valves, it could be anything, pneumatic equipment, it could be anything. Install it, move it, put new equipment in, take equipment out, scrap equipment, you're working sometimes 60 foot up off the ground and sometimes 40 foot below it in tunnels, removing valves and the like. So we were millwrights. We looked after the mill, if you will, the plant, the maintenance of it all. And there was quite a group of us that did that. A lot of them were younger people, because it was quite active work. It was quite heavy work, and you were up and down ladders and on cranes and all types of things.
So, the days of steam had long gone when you were there, Derek. What sort of work was going on at the works in your time?
There was all types of things were going on, and it changed quite radically actually while I worked there. I only there less than 5 years, but things altered dramatically. So there was a lot of wagon work was going on, replacing the bodies of wagons, raising panels. All the underneath of the wagons were all replaced. We had Freightliner wagons, which was the length of a container, which were these low-level wagons were stripped down, turned over, rebuilt, and put back together again. We did all those. We had in the foundry we produced brake blocks, shoes for rail lines that were used all over the country. In the smithy, we fabricated from scratch the leaf springs that went sometimes on the wagons and other rolling stock we maintained on the works. Sometimes went to other parts of the country. In the actual wagon shop, car shop and the like, there was a variety of things. We did some Merseyrail rolling stock, so they were electrical multiple units. We did what we call flat tops, so there was a number of coaches that were brought in, old coaches, that we completely took apart, cut off the top and put a flat working platform on top, so that when the overhead wires and electrical overhead cables were being rolled out all over the country, the people could stand on these flat-topped coaches and work on the overhead wires, and they got access to that flat top through stairs in the middle of it. So you went into the coach through a door, up through some stairs and onto the flat top. So we made quite a number of those, which was quite good work. The big change came when we started to do the electrical multiple units, what they called the 313s. These came in units, I think there were about 3 coaches. We completely retooled, or started to retool, the big sections of the car and wagon shop to take these coaches. We made staging so that the workers who were working on the coaches didn't need to climb up ladders, they could just walk straight in, almost like a railway platform, straight into the coach. And in the work I did in the millwright shop, working with the plumbers, we were even putting piping underneath that staging, which has sprinklers in to stop potential of sparks causing fires. So we did all types of things. So a complete range of work in there. When I was toward the end of my apprenticeship, I spent some time on the turning section of the machine shop, and all the work I did was for private companies. We took work on from local private engineering companies. So I did a lot of turning and machining for that. Others did the same. And we supplied sheets, plastic sheeting for private companies for covering the vehicles up and the like. So we did quite a bit of private work in the whole.
Okay, so there was a wide variety of work going on. Did you think there was a longer future at Horwich?
Especially when the 313 order came in, and there was a lot of investment went on. They cut the erecting shop in half and extended the traverses to take those coaches, to take the 313 coaches. And we had 2 of them. There was test centres put in, test beds put in, there was a lot of retraining went on. There were people who started their apprenticeship as placers and fabricators, sometimes called boiler makers, that became fitters because they wanted more fitters, they wanted more electricians. A lot went on to re-engineer not just the tools but the workforce to ensure it fit the type of work needed. So it did feel like we were on the cusp of a new wave of growth on the works, and there were a lot of high energy. When I was in the training school, I think there were 35 British Rail apprentices. The following year there were 70, and the year after that there was 100. So the actual apprentice intake was increasing because of the new work we were getting. So we all thought that we were safe for years.
Yeah, and there were still several thousand people there, weren't there?
Oh yeah, there were 2,500 or more work there, and sometimes it felt like we'd spoke to them all on a daily basis. Because as a millwright, I were all over the place, repairing cranes and lathes and things all over the place. And you get to know people, and you get the camaraderie and a banter with people. What
was the crack, the banter like? Was it a good working atmosphere?
It was a very good working atmosphere, and my work took me, because I was a millwright, in all different parts of the works, and we came across many characters. But we had good fun on a daily basis. And of course I was a young chap then, 21-year-old, and we used to take the mickey out of the older fitters and the older workmen who would sometimes throw things at us and run after us and chase us. And I had one chap once grab me around the back of the neck. After about a week after I took the mickey out of him, he'd waited until I went near again and grabbed me, and I thought, I've got you now, and I couldn't get away. It was strong as an ox. So there was that, but as much as there was a lot of fun, we worked very hard, especially the work we were in, because if a machine stopped, if a big lathe stopped or a overhead crane stopped, production would quickly stop, and we were there to keep production going. So when we started work, when these things broke down and carried on until the thing was repaired again, and when I left the work sometime later, after redundancy, I worked with engineering companies, a small number of companies, for a relatively short period of time. But I certainly didn't work any harder with them than I did on Horwich Loco Works. And on the works, it was heavy work. It was always it was dirty, noisy, with a lot of heat variation going on.
So, did that camaraderie extend outside the works into social life?
It absolutely did, and we used to seeing people in Horwich, in the pubs and clubs, during normal shopping or actually socialising. You'd bump into people, and you get them shouting across the pub to you. You'd come over here, I've set a game of pool up for us, so you'd have a game of pool. And it's even though all that's gone, and it's a sad passing that's gone. And if I go in Horwich now, you don't see much of that. I don't recognise people anymore as I once did. when I do spot people, that camaraderie is still there. And just recently, as we've been putting this exhibition together, which has been 40 years since the closure of the works, when I've been telling people about that, suddenly stories start to come out again. And it's a really nice environment to be in when that happens, and it's good that we're still together in that way.
The works closed in December 1983. What impact did it have on you and your family?
Yeah, it's a sizable impact on lots of families, but in particular ours. I actually was made redundant in the first wave of compulsory redundancies in March 1983, so there were about 150 of us went then. There were some union meetings, on short notice union meetings, and then lists appeared on the notice board, and then the foreman, our foreman, would call you in and have a chat with you about it. And I've thought over the years about the job that they had to do then, about telling young people that they were going to be made redundant. So it had quite an impact on me and on my family, and you know the legacy of the works, and thinking about my dad and his dad. My granddad arrived in Horwich with his family in 1908. He was a chainsmith. He'd been working on the shipyards. And he worked there, went away in the First World War and came back, and because of the injuries caused during the First World War, finished work in the 1920s, and he died early in the 1930s. My dad was an apprentice fitter, and in them days the apprentices did 7 years as apprentice, time-served apprentice. And he progressed, and he was probably what we call these days middle management, like a senior foreman level. And he was redundant at the same time. I had two brothers who finished within a few months of me finishing. A sister who worked in the offices doing the payroll work, finished. A brother-in-law who worked outside in the yard gang. And I had an uncle, and my uncle was a millwright as well, like I was, and he was one of our charge hands. In the actual millwright shop. His work was in the millwright shop, where I worked outside in different parts of the factory. So it had quite an impact, and it you know, from a young person's view, it really demobilises you. It's quite a shock to the system, because from school straight into an apprenticeship, and we were aware, and we thought that the Horwich Works had a massive future because it was getting many a new big order. So we thought we were there for a while, and it was secure. A big shock, and at the same time, of course, in that time in the early 1980s, engineering, certainly heavy engineering, which I think you could call us put us in that bracket. I'm reminded of that scene when they're in the job centre in the Full Monty film, when they're all lining up. And we did exactly that type of thing. My name's Cartwright, so anybody with the letter C or D or E all went on the same day, and we were all queued up, and somebody at the back would say, "Hurry up at the front, I've got to go and see my stockbroker, I've got a lot of money to put away," and there were all that type of banter went on, and then the whole room would erupt with similar type comments about "I'm catching a plane to go to Barbados later, hurry up at the front, I want to sign on and get me paycheck for this week." So there were all types of almost black humour went on with it, but that was part of the era we were in, and it probably got a lot of us through. But it does take quite a bit of recovery, and there are times over the years I've felt quite bitter about that closure, and it's a pity that it might not have survived in the size, but perhaps if investment were to take place to let us compete with other engineering companies, we could have actually had a go, and it might have felt different then.
What does it feel like now, looking back on your time at the works?
I think I was privileged to spend that time, that few years on Horwich Works. I certainly benefited from that intense apprenticeship, educationally, to ONC type level. So educationally it certainly benefited, and the friendships formed then, of all ages and of all backgrounds, have maintained ever since. Of course, in years to come, when I was in the ambulance service and I was an early paramedic in the country, we were breaking the ground then. and that I've thought many times that was back onto Horwich Loco Works when we were getting the massive new orders and to change the way the workforce operated because we were doing something else. And in the ambulance service we did that. We changed dramatically in the 1990s and became something else. So the ambulance service that I joined altered, and me experience and learning from Horwich Works helped me in many ways. And it obviously took me to management and into senior management and eventually to the chief exec of the North West Ambulance Service, which is actually something I'd be very proud of.
You feel nostalgic for the times, the people, the town as it was?
I do quite often, and I see sometimes I try to avoid some things with it because it does stir memories in the past of all my family working there.
And do you still keep in touch with many people from that time?
Whenever I bump into people around the town or anywhere they are, we have a chat. Last summer I bumped into a fella who I went to help him out with a swarm of bees he had, and it turned out he was an apprentice the year below me in the works, went through the same process. So we spent 10 minutes sorting the bees out and 2 hours talking about the works.
Oh, yes.
But there's a group of people who I associate with now who are actually in the first aid team that I was part of on Horwich Works. It was the Horwich #1 first aid team. We were the top team, as it were, as Horwich Works. So that team, I do have a chat with every now and then. We go for a coffee, we have a pint every few weeks, and it's great to see them. So we do stick together as a group. But other than that, I bump into people generally around the place, and it's good to have a catch up. And in fact, I were at the Remembrance Sunday just recently, and one chap was giving leaflets out who was one of our people out of the millwright shop, and we had a 5-minute catch up there. So it's good to see people.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you, Derek. That's a wonderful insight into how things were at the works, sadly, 40 years ago.
40 years is a long time, half a lifetime away. But such was the impact of Horwich Loco Works on the town that strong memories of it remain amongst many families to this day. Horwich Heritage was formed in the wake of the closure of the works to re-establish local pride in a community devastated by its loss. In the past 38 years, it has done its best to keep the legacy of Horwich Loco Works alive through the production of books, exhibitions and films like this one, as well as fight for the preservation of some of the historic works buildings. Long may we continue to recognise the contribution of the works and its workforce to the building of this wonderful historic railway town of Horwich.
Who said Horwich Works was a thing of the past? Who said the yard had to die? Who said the workers must go down the road? Who'll give the reason why? Who'll keep the bailiff and the wolf from the door? Who'll keep their pride when the works are no more? Not I, said the pattern maker. Not I, said the metal worker. Not I, said the fitter. Not I, said the trimmer. Not I, said the boiler maker. How many railways in how many lands are dying for want of a craftsman's hands? Who'll tell those people their hopes are in vain? And who'll tell them now is the age of the train? Who'll keep the bailiff and the wolf from the door? Who'll keep their pride when the works are no more? Not I, said the pattern maker. Not I, said the metal worker. Not I, said the fitter. Not I, said the trimmer. Not I, said the boiler maker. Not I, said the fitter. Not I, said the trimmer. Not I, said the boiler maker.